we find ourselves in interesting times, don't we? It's been everything that's been happening is it's quite exciting to me, because for the last 5 years or so, I've been ideating, kind of downloading, whacking my glasses, and taking down a lot, and then partnering with people, figuring stuff out. Basically, everything around ideating and constructing a new socioeconomic model. Now, what's been interesting is I've kind of been questioning, like, why hasn't anyone kind of thought about this really before? Why do pretty much everybody end up, or why does pretty much everybody end up just part of the system? And even if they kind of wake up later on in life and realize that, oh shit, like, it's a giant monopoly, giant matrix that we live in, and the powers that be don't have anyone's best interests in mind except for their overlords, and their own pockets. And even if wealthy people wake up later on in life, they tend to already have infrastructures built that sustain the lifestyle that they have, and the identity that they have that created the lifestyle they have, and the infrastructure around them. So fundamentally, kind of letting go of the very capitalistic structure and frame that gave them what they have is not easy. I mean, I get it, it's not going to be easy. Whenever we learn something new at a sort of macro life level, it's very hard to integrate those kinds of lessons, because it quite often involves letting go of a kind of paradigm and a framework of how our lives are currently set up. And the bigger you are, the more wealth you have, the more people you have working for you, the more companies in your portfolio, whatever that may be, the harder that's going to be. So we can't expect people that have massive wealth and massive levels of influence and so on to be fully aligned with the nature of reality and love and creation as some of us may know it. If you've ever worked with psychedelics, then you'll know what I mean. If you've ever had a Kundalini awakening experience, you'll know what I mean. If you've ever practiced meditation for long enough, you'll know what I mean. Even just stretching and breathing and working out, you'll know what I mean about being connected and feeling like you're kind of connected in reality in a different way. And when you do that, and especially if you do it in nature, you connect with Mother Earth. You connect with the entity, the very being that is our grandmother. And whether you believe this or not is really none of my business. It's the truth. It's just what is. This Earth is a celestial being, and she has a pulse. She has a frequency. And unless you spend a lot of time with her and not just stuck in concrete boxes or concrete cities, in a concrete box in a concrete city, in a concrete life, you've no idea what I'm talking about. And that's okay. I don't expect you to. You don't need to. But you're probably also not watching this, certainly not to nearly 4 minutes. So I think to answer the question, like, why hasn't anyone really addressed this? Well, I'm aware of some people that have, but on a macro scale, they haven't. And those are the reasons, when we get stuck in mindsets, stuck in frames of reference of how to do life, and we have decades of experience in those, and decades of the habits and the identity and the life reflections, and if you're successful especially, if you're not too, then it's irrelevant, then those external reflections validate and continue to reinforce the internal framework that we're operating from. And so, we have mass psychosis effectively these days, and we have for many, many, many decades too, but especially these days with the media the way it is, and the social conversation that goes on. There's a lot of groupthink. Even the people that think they're waking up and are fighting the system and all this kind of stuff, they're still stuck in groupthink. There's no real sovereignty and independence to their level of thinking. And I say it like that not provocatively on purpose. It may feel provocative, and that's okay too, because it's a foundational truth that until we each know ourselves and therefore are not triggered and reactive to the external world. When you know yourself, you don't have to be reactive to the external world. You can still step in and be penetrative with it, but there's no need to be reactive to it, because it's just happening, and it's going to happen whether you're there or not. And if you are there and you've got a decent connection with your heart and your mind and a powerful auric field, yeah, I'm going to get esoteric, then you're going to influence it positively. You might influence it negatively initially, because people quite often get triggered by people like us. But you know that that's just a flare-up, which is what the matrix does when it gets challenged, before a release happens, and then harmony is the result. So, having built 9-figure businesses in the past and failed in them and gone drastically bankrupt and lost everything, and then having also lived completely the opposite life, having lived on now 5 small islands in 7-ish years in 3 countries, 2 continents, I think I've got a pretty good view, a fairly objective view too, of what's good and bad about Western structures. I won't even call it Western structures, because China's the same, you know. Everything's kind of becoming a little bit Chinese these days, as we know. But those capitalistic structures, and then the opposite. I'm in Zanzibar now, and every single day I meet people on the beach and in the village here who live very, very differently. And don't get me wrong, they still live in like a capitalist light structure. And it's actually us that's kind of fucked them, because before we came, they didn't have anyone to compare themselves to. And they solved their own problems in the ways that they could. But they were generally way happier. And I really mean way happier, and they still are. And the reason is because they're present, you know. Island life forces you to become here. Nothing else is happening. Just this. Right now, me talking to my camera, and you listening. And that's it. That's all that's happening right now. And the people here know that. Now that works incredibly well for them, because they genuinely are happier than 99.9% of people around the world. And I mean that. They just are. They carry joy. They're spirited. They're energized. They're full of vitality and life. They may not be able to consume the healthiest food sometimes, and they may be infected by the likes of Monsanto and these horrendous companies who come here and give so much for free, but it poisons the people. Yet they're still connected to Mother Earth, and they're still connected to their spirit. And what's also interesting is that in the West especially, we have really lost our way with our faith. And I'm not talking about religions, but religions are most people's access point to some kind of faith. Whereas here they still have, although the vast majority of people here are Muslim, and on the mainland the vast majority of people are Christian, what they also have is tribal lineage that they're still, most of the people are still deeply connected to. And those tribes are connected to the earth. And so where their vitality comes from, and where their faith in life comes from, their trust in life, their trust in themselves, and where their character comes from, and they have this, especially the men here, they all like the sound of their own voice, and they make sure that they're heard. They, you know, if they speak to you and you don't notice, they'll raise their voice and bring the power in and make sure that they're recognized. And it's not coming from a place of arrogance or cockiness or anything. It's coming from a place of self-acceptance and pride. They don't understand the Western mindsets of like self-pity and how we look at ourselves in a kind of negative way. It doesn't make any sense to any of them. And so I've had the experience of massive capitalism and wealth, but zero faith, zero real faith. And then I've had the opposite experience of a lot less capitalism and virtually no wealth, both for myself and for the people that I'm surrounded by, but massive faith. Even if religion has distorted that slightly, and I say that on purpose too, and if that triggers you, that's also okay. We are collectively brothers and sisters. We're not different. There's just currently legally registered 5,000 different stories about certain individuals who've tapped into levels of faith that most of us haven't. But the foundations of each of those 5,000 stories, not that I've read every single one, but I have read quite a lot of some of them, the foundations are all pretty similar. Know yourself, love your neighbor, and trust in something greater than your identity. And if we can have those three things embedded into the very constitution of societies from now on, whatever they look like, I don't think we can go too wrong. So I'm here to challenge that. I'm here to not challenge anything, really. I'm here to give an opportunity of a new structure. And this is the thing I've been working on for the last 5 years. And I've built certain structures around it to allow it to become kind of self-fulfilling. You know, it'll have these kind of foundational premises, but self-fulfilling in terms of its growth, in terms of its adoption. And I say I've built them. I haven't built them yet, but I have designed them, and I have got potential partners lining up who I can create different aspects of this infrastructure with. And I've also written the framework for a TV show, a reality TV show, to document the journey of a group of people going on a journey of coming into those three foundational anchor points: knowing themselves, loving their neighbor, and having faith in something greater than their identity of who they think they are. And to my eye, nothing like that's ever been done before. Nothing like any of what I've designed so far has been done before. So I hope in this video so far I've kind of explained my justification, or the reasoning why I think this is important right now. You know, we're seeing a massive pendulum swing in America from the lethargy and stagnation and stupid decisions of Biden and terribly weak leadership that was just bought and paid for, to the over-aggressive, over-hype, all the rest of it of current administration with Trump. And it's very entertaining. I mean, all of it's very entertaining, especially when you're not out effect of it and you're just kind of, you know, out of the mix and viewing from afar. It's very entertaining, but it's also incredibly challenging because so many people are just so out effect of these decisions. You know, you work for a big government agency and, okay, you may not have necessarily pulled your weight over the last however many years. We all know what these kind of cushy, secure, 10-year jobs are like. But just having the rug pulled like that is pretty challenging. So, you know, I'm not going to shit on anyone's parade and say that, you know, what people are experiencing right now isn't challenging. It is, but life is challenging. Get used to it, you know. So thinking, structuring, this is the thing. This is all off the top of the dome. Like, there's no real preparation from this. I had an idea of what I wanted to speak to, and then I'm just kind of letting myself riff. But there is something that I would like to kind of end with for this video. I grew up on a farm. My dad taught me really, really solid, grounded values of, you know, if you take the life of an animal, you use it, you thank earth for it, and you eat it. You don't just do things for sport. I actually have largely been vegan and even fruitarian at times over the last 7 or 8 years. And I haven't killed an animal in quite a long time, except for a pigeon that I had to kill in Thailand, in Bali, because it had nearly killed itself on a window and it needed to be ended. We exist in a time right now where anything's possible. And so my foundations as a kid growing up on a farm and the values I got taught in that environment being in business and rising to some pretty high heights in business, and also experiencing some pretty fucking crazy things, and realizing just how shark infested high-end capitalistic waters are. And then having everything kind of stripped away and living so simply like I do these days in Zanzibar, living incredibly frugally, incredibly connected to the earth, incredibly connected to the local people here, and kind of a whole plethora of experiences in between those two. So I think I come from a place of not just kind of book-read economics or anything like that, but having built and experienced a life in so many different kinds of environments over a pretty long period of time. With the experiences I do have in business and so on, I think I'm pretty well positioned and pretty well experienced to be able to speak to this stuff, and not just speak to it, but create into it. The reason I'm setting or relaunching, I guess, my YouTube channel, I've deleted all the videos I had on here before because none of them made any, I was trying to do something that I'd seen on the outside, which was I'm very good at coaching people. If I'm one-on-one with someone or even one with a group, my ability to spot somebody's blockage and help them reframe it and see it differently and help them literally adjust course in their lives without really having to do very much, but just giving them the space to see what they need to see for themselves, guiding them through a journey. I'm very, very good at that, but it isn't my highest path. And the way I speak to camera, giving advice on that kind of stuff, advice on the nature of reality, creation itself, etc. There's 1,000 other people out there doing it better than I can, and they have more passion than I do for that in particular. My passion is this. And so this is the first of those videos. I am in a kind of like a recruitment stage now, where I've put together a Patreon page, and I've put on there some information that you can have a look at about what, by the way, the brand, the headline of this is called Nourish. What it's all about, what the foundations of this movement are, of this new way of being are. And I'd love for you to check it out. I'm actively raising capital to build the infrastructure to allow this creation to land. And I realized just this last week, maybe I get to raise millions of dollars and do this, as a funded founder. But maybe I'm supposed to speak directly to camera, directly to whoever can hear the message that I'm delivering, and say to you guys, come play. It's a little loose and kind of ragged at the edges at this point. But if you come and support me for no more than the price of an average dinner per month, I'm going to be able to do some extraordinary things in this world. And you're going to be a part of that journey. And you're going to have access to the infrastructure and the ecosystem that I create, which will be everything from a online education platform, helping you know who you are, helping you find your truest path, to the community online, to your own token, which depending on your level of, this is going to sound strange and it will start to make sense more and more as the months and years go on, but depending on your level of consciousness and also contribution from that level of consciousness will depend on your level of access to this ecosystem I'm creating. You'll have first dibs on coming on the show as well and going through an intensive 3-month journey and being an example to the rest of the world, quite frankly. And you will also have access to our creative villages, which will be starting here in Zanzibar and very quickly expanding across the world. I've already got partners lining up in places like Costa Rica, Mexico, Brazil, Sweden, funnily enough, the UK, Bali, and Australia. So plenty of future locations where you will have token access, or your token will grant you access, depending on the level of contribution you have, depending on from the level of consciousness you come from, will grant you access to our ecosystem at whatever level you're at. So, if everything I've just spoken to sounds intriguing, if it sounds confusing still, that's okay. You're allowed to be confused, and as more and more clarity is required, I will keep adding layers. But if this does resonate with you, and you can feel the change in the tides, and you can see that what's happening in America just isn't enough. It's too far of a pendulum swing, and it's too kind of radical and chaotic, and it's obviously geared towards a technocratic state. And with Musk involved, it's obviously, or most likely, geared towards transhumanism, where we all have chips in our heads and we don't actually have control over our brains, which it's just such a dumb idea. I mean, Mars is a dumber idea, but that's a pretty fucking dumb idea too. I love the story he's telling though. We can help people who are blind see again, and people who've got dementia not have dementia, those kinds of things. I love that as a story, but when you understand natural health, all of those things can be rectified through our connection to Source, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. And so having a society built on the foundation, not of religion, but of true faith and true surrender to our infinite nature, it's going to have a much more solid foundation than any other movement or societal structure in this realm that we find ourselves in. So yeah, and then we've got the opposite in Europe with a bunch of leaders who shouldn't even be called leaders. They're just doing what their paymasters tell them and destroying Europe, destroying England right now. It's fucking, I've been out of the UK for a long time, but looking at it from afar, like, what a shit show. And there's no strong leaders standing up and just saying, hey, Starmer, fuck off, mate. Like, do one. Like, they're calling what just happened in the US a coup. And I'm here going, well, I think the UK needs one, And if you're in the military or the police or, any kind of security entities and you're watching this, which is entirely possible, yeah, come on, guys. Like, look at what's happening. Why are you doing what this pleb is telling you to do? Rise up, collectively, rise the fuck up. We don't have to take some fucking geekazoids bullshit. No. Like, he's the kind of guy that got bullied at school for good reason. Needs to be bullied as an adult too. And I don't say that like to be a bully and to be mean or anything like that. I say it because there's fundamental, especially with men, there's fundamental things in the relationship between men and men that can only get settled with physical violence. Safe physical violence, We can have boxing gloves. But he needs to be hit. Someone needs to hit this clown. Good friend of mine back in Bali, he says, everybody needs to get punched in the face, at least once in their life. And having been to his fight club and sparred with him, which was not a fun experience at times, I do agree. As unpleasant as getting hit in the face is, it's really necessary sometimes. Anyway, suffice to say, here we are. It's going to be quite a journey. It really is going to be quite a journey. It's already been quite a journey. This is 5 years now in the making. And it's coming together slowly. The pieces, this whole Zanzibar situation came out of nowhere. The partner that I'm lining up, who's currently in Peru, we met in Bali in a really kind of crazy situation and way. The people that I have lined up to come and build certain aspects of this whole ecosystem are literally veterans at their games. I couldn't ask for better people, more aligned people, in heart and mind. And now it's time to cast the net a little wider and speak to people on YouTube and say, if what I've been speaking to sounds like it needs to happen, then you know what to do. Come and support, come and play. And if you have even more to add than just supporting with, I think it's $35 a month, then yeah, let's get to know each other in the community and let's play. It's time, folks. It's time for some big changes. And it's time to, I'll just put it how it is. It's time to listen to people like me that have got a breadth of experience and a higher level view than most even know is possible, because of the lives that we've led. And it's time to honor wisdom, not just intellectual solutions, but true wise solutions that come from somewhere else other than the place that created the problems that we currently have. And that's all that's happening right now, is people are just throwing more money and bigger capitalistic games at the problems that exist in the world. And it might patchwork it for a little while, but the pop that will eventually inevitably come is just going to be that much bigger. And if you're watching this right now, you don't have to fall off that same cliff that quite likely many are going to, metaphorical cliff. You don't have to. There is a different way and a better way. It's not necessarily easier, but it is a lot more joyful, creative, playful, and beautiful. So if that resonates, come say hi.